Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Hey, Did You See This One? And this week, you're going to be joined by myself, Jason, and Kaylin to discuss what happens when you delve too far into the world of madness. In the mouth of madness. And I'm just going to invite these fellas in here. Invite. There we go.
Once again. How do I look?
Chicka, yeah.
It appears as though we all have the ability to make sounds on the internet.
We do. But for some reason, my headphones only work when they're in my ear, and when I take them out, it comes out of my phone again.
We get horrible feedback. Kaylin, say something. I don't believe you've said something on this particular episode yet.
Oh, hello.
Can you hear him?
I can hear you guys, yeah.
Okay, we did it. This is the new. Steve, you're the host this week. Tell them all about our new setup.
Well, we've decided that rather than stick to just to Instagram doing the lives, we're going to still do our lives on here, but we're also going to record on our computers so that we can post these videos elsewhere. Where exactly?
Give you that good shit.
We're not sure yet, but we'll figure that out soon.
I'm gonna do a little YouTube jujitsu, and I'm gonna do a little website jujitsu pretty soon. Look for that in 2022 coming up.
Yeah, and maybe if we get crazy, we'll cut the good bits into little hyper vids, and we can put them on TikTok or whatever the heck.
I actually had an idea of something we could do just for the Zoom part, where we just say, okay, 10 minutes, go. And then we do a quick 10-minute version of the whole podcast just to post onto our Instagram. And then we're just shooting out content everywhere. Because, content is important on the internet. If you listen to Gary Vaynerchuk at all, you'll know that in order to make it on the internet, you have to post 10 quality pieces of content every day, which is completely unreasonable.
Quality?
Yeah, quality.
I could do 10, but...
What about, not quality? Does it have to be double?
I do, 5 TikToks a day, and I am not making any progress.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we can consider yours quality, though. That's the problem.
Hey! I do movie reviews on there.
I have seen them.
Oh, God.
I was very disappointed that we had an almost 2-hour discussion about Big Trouble in Little China because how he's doing a John Wayne impression, and you kept calling it a Clint Eastwood impression in your TikTok review.
It was both, in my opinion.
He's doing John Wayne.
That was a different episode. I want to talk about how Sam Neill's Trent is doing a Sam Neill impression.
Yes, John Trent. He's pretty radical in this movie. I love him so much. He's like the skeptic. He's a jerk. He's kind of a little bit sleazy. He's an asshole, and it's great. I guess what we usually do is we talk about the first time we ever saw this movie. So I think we'll go around the table, starting with Kaylin.
Oh, hello. What's up, everyone? Let me just ask first and foremost, do you think I should address the phone or I should address the computer right now?
Both. Let's both back and forth.
What I thought you just said was, should I have dressed up as the phone or dressed up as the computer? Because we usually dress up for these reviews.
And that's another thing. I felt bad. I didn't have any costume for tonight.
You didn't have a single black crayon?
Oh, damn it! I could have totally done that. Shit. That's a great idea.
If you're watching our high quality version, I did dress up as in the theater with Sam Neill. Our Instagram viewers won't be able to see that, but someday.
Well, when we post the Zoom on Instagram.
You can't post videos that big, unfortunately.
Too big.
Damn.
All right, Kaylin, when was the first time you saw this movie?
So this was my first time seeing this movie. I had no previous history or knowledge or inkling of anything about this movie before prepping for tonight's episode. And I gotta say, I enjoyed it, and I definitely missed out on a lot of John Carpenter, in the when it was first released, and being able to have that nostalgic value carry over.
Yeah, I think we're all sort of in the pocket of like slightly not old enough to have been able to see all these when we were the appropriate age to see them when they were coming out.
Exactly. Mind you, I have definitely seen a lot of inappropriate things when I was a kid.
And done inappropriate things, I assume.
I mean, I was like a little angel. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
I've probably done a few things. That'll be for another episode, or an after hours episode or something. I do like the feel of 80s movies, though. Like you can feel like what's on screen.
Yeah, and this is sort of a holdover. It is 1994, but it definitely has it has a 90s feel, but it also has like a throwback 80s feel, for sure.
Yeah, my apologies. It was 94. My bad. I dropped the ball a little bit. I didn't do as much research for this episode as far as the nitty gritty details.
This is not a history podcast. Don't worry about it.
But maybe we'll talk about it later. But can I just ask right quick? Is this like one of the first movies to get like this meta?
I don't think it's probably one of the most mainstream movies to get this meta, but I don't think it's one of the first.
Okay.
And I mean, it's not really meta until the very end.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, I like the meta twist at the end. It's fun. Jason.
So I'm gonna give you my super long history with this movie. I watched it today. That's the history. What I will say though is it's crazy to me that this movie came out after Jurassic Park. Sam Neill had already been around for a while and has a long film career at this point. But you do Jurassic Park, and then immediately the next year you do like a psychological thriller horror. Like the only other movie I've even seen in the same genre of meta until like Deadpool was Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell and Maggie Gyllenhaal, where he's like in his own book or whatever. Right. When I started this movie, I accidentally read the synopsis bit that comes up on the website where I streamed it, and I was like,
somebody call the police, put him in jail.
I only read the first sentence, and it said hack book writer, and I was like, oh man, is he just gonna be trapped in his own book? So until he actually goes into the church later in the movie, I thought he was living in his own book. But I think as we talk about this, we're gonna have to figure out at what point is he being written? Is the story being written? And I think that's going to be the bulk of the conversation. Why you guys last night you guys were both like, we're gonna rewatch this movie, and I was like, rewatching movies is for movie rewatchers. And today, as soon as I finished watching the movie, I was like, fuck, I need to go.
Says the guy who's probably watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia like 20 times each season.
I've seen it through, depending on where it is in the series. The first like 5 seasons I've seen like probably 10 times, but then as it goes on, I've seen them less and less because between seasons I rewatch. Anyway, The other thing I wanted to bring up is this. This movie has the culmination of like 3 great actors, 2 like B actors and 1 A actor in Sam Neill from one of the greatest movies of all time, Jurassic Park, but also Baxter Stockman from Ninja Turtles 2 and Vigo the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2.
I don't think I would call him a B actor. I think I would call him an actor who is in 4 movies ever.
Vigo, the guy that plays Vigo?
Yeah,
Vigo
the Carpathian, the guy who's like, Johnny boy!
Trying to do an American accent with his extremely thick, like, Scandinavian accent.
But 1 second, rewind a little bit. Baxter Stockman, are you talking about what's-his-face, Medea? Or
the guy...
Crazy Scientist?
The guy, no, not the.
Oh, TGRI guy.
Yeah. TRI. I think it is. The guy that like finds the well, Baxter Stockman is a character from Ninja Turtles comics. The guy that turns into a fly, but they never got that far in the movie. In the movie, he's just the guy that finds the giant dandelion, and then he starts working to make the mutagen. In this movie, he's the guy that goes in to see Sam Neill, Trent, in the insane asylum.
I want to challenge some of what you said.
Titanic. You guys have ever heard of Titanic? You ever watched that one?
I've never seen Titanic all the way through. I've seen parts of Titanic.
He's mostly at the end.
I know Billy Zane is in it, and I know that.
Anyway,
I know that what's her face gets her boobs out.
There are people that they add to movies to elevate the performances for smaller characters. That's what a character actor is.
I understand what a character actor is. They're like the jobbers of the
B actors. They're not B actors.
Z-list actors. They're in professional wrestling. They're called journeymen or jobbers. In films, they're called journeymen.
Journeyman actors as well. Yeah, where they work forever doing smaller roles and they're not
C-list.
I'll do that.
Z-list. Anyway,
how do I get
that? This is already better for the Zoom call version because we're talking over each other a little bit. I don't know how it sounds on the Instagram. Probably horrible. But we can talk over each other a little bit as we were testing out last night.
You also forgot about Charlton Heston. He's the owner of the book publication company.
That was Charlton Heston?
Yes.
Oh.
You know, avid gun activist, now dead.
But my gold deadhead.
They blew it up.
They blew it up. Those damn dirty apes.
Get your hands off me, you dirty apes. Yeah. There's the actor who plays the innkeeper. She's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, that
get your hand.
lady.
Give me the marble, you old bag. From
yeah, your Marble Rye from Seinfeld. Yeah, she's in Billy Madison. She's in a bunch of David Lynch stuff. She's in Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet.
Oh, that was one other thing I wanted to mention before we go into like the bulk of this episode. This movie simultaneously felt like three movies. And those three movies two directors in a particular movie. Felt like David Lynch and Stephen King. It felt like directed by David Lynch, written by Stephen King, inspired by Naked Lunch. I don't know if you guys have watched the movie Naked Lunch. Based on the book.
Not nearly as much nudity as I thought there would be.
No, but there's definitely a lot of really weird body horror and stuff.
Yeah.
But the monsters in this movie really had a Naked Lunch vibe to them. I figured this movie was shown on Showcase in Canada. I feel like when I was a kid, this movie would have been primed for that channel.
That's if we want to get to when I first saw it. The first
time
I
you
saw
don't
it.
even. Sorry.
Yeah. The first time I saw it was when I was a kid. Flipping through those channels, like sometimes you would get to see some boobs or whatever when you're like a kid. And you're like, I just want to see some boobs on TV.
Come on, titties.
You don't have a computer yet.
They don't exist.
And this movie was on. I think it was on Showcase. I think you're right.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
How did you guys first hear about Blue Nuit?
I don't want to talk about that on this podcast.
Okay, word of mouth. Is that for everyone? Yeah,
there's probably an entire
or whatever
podcast that's dedicated to just that. We don't need to take up there.
Turn to channel 58 on Saturday night if you want to see some no penetration.
Yeah,
some soft
I want to see two people dry humping each other, like where they're clearly are like bed sheets in the way or whatever.
I'm not gonna lie, it was my favorite kind.
Yeah, you still watch that instead of like the normal porn that everyone else watches. You just watch weird softcore porn.
Some things still fetishes, man. Some things still fetishes. Not softcore porn.
Anyway, I said I didn't want to talk about this. So that's how I found this movie, and I'm sure that I.
Whoa! You found this movie through Blue Nuit?
I don't even know what that is. Is that one? Is it like Red Shoe Diaries? Red Shoe Diaries is the one.
It's along those lines.
No, Blue Nuit was Saturday nights on the French channel at midnight. They would go.
Okay, I wasn't looking that hard that I had to deal with subtitles.
I don't know if they had
I
Blue
don't
Nuit
think.
here, Kalen. I don't know if they got the French. It's a Quebec channel, and I
Yeah,
don't know if they got it on this side.
That could be true, actually.
Oh, Kalen's frozen.
Am I?
Yeah, Kalen, you're frozen on the computer, but you're still okay on the phone.
Okay, 1 second.
If you have to close down on the Zoom, just jump back in again, and I'll let you back in.
Okay, it looks like that's what it's making me do.
There you go, Steve. You're not going to be interrupted with any questions.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about this, and it's almost been about 5 minutes now.
Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. The first time I saw it was, again, flipping through channels when I was a kid, late night, Saturday or Friday or whatever, and I came across this, didn't know what it was, and came across it a couple more times, still didn't know what it was. And I never actually got to see it fully through, but I was like, I like the creepy weirdness of it. And it wasn't too scary. Like, it was like, it had creepy vibes to it. And there are some very scary parts in this that if I saw it too young would have freaked me right out. But it was like weird enough to catch my interest and not too scary that I was too scared to watch it. So I watched as much of it as I could every time it came on. And I reintroduced myself to it later on once I discovered that it was a John Carpenter movie. And after watching The Thing a couple of times and being like, does he have any more that are like this, where he has weird, crazy monsters in it? And this is pretty much the only other one that has as much nasty, vile-looking stuff in it as The Thing. The Thing is still like the top of the mountain in terms of John Carpenter's directorial ability, his cinematography, and his like grasp of tone and tension. Whereas this movie is like this like sort of tightly wound spring that just keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until it just like explodes and you're like, what is happening now?
You can tell he used a lot of the same movie magic on this as he did on The Thing.
Yeah.
The same sort of like spidery monster kind of look.
Kaylin, did you try and get back on the Zoom yet?
I am slowly working on it. I apologize for my technical difficulties.
I can't hear the other chat.
I can hear him. Don't worry.
Okay. For the next go around, I'm going to get an actual direct connection for my laptop because I'm just on Wi-Fi on that one. What the fuck is this?
This is where we do an ad break when we get advertised.
So we have an ad break, and it's Jason's special syrup.
All right. Looks like we're joining back.
Buy my special syrup. It's thick.
In progress.
What the?
Sorry. Thick syrup.
Anyway, so that was the first time I saw the movie. I really liked it, and this watch through, I watched it a couple weeks ago. Actually, I watched it just after I watched The Prince of Darkness last week. I watched it right afterwards, and then I watched it again tonight, and it's great. Like, it kind of rules. Like, I think it's probably my second favorite John Carpenter movie, period. There's lots of other good ones, don't get me wrong, and I might fluctuate that somewhere else, but The Thing and then this, like, it's so good.
It's very good. Yeah, it was another, and it had that Big Trouble in Little China. Like, I just wanted to see what's going to happen next. Like, it's an old movie. It's kind of, it's got its moments that show its age, but as far as the plot, it just keeps going. It's like a cocaine fueled fever dream, a lot like Big Trouble. They Live in Prince of Darkness were a little bit more cerebral, comparatively, because you're kind of thinking about, like, what does this all mean? Where with this, it's beyond trying to figure out what it all means. It's beyond that. This is a movie you watch multiple times and actually come up with a theory. Much like Big Trouble.
Speaking of the plot, I don't know if I agree with you totally on your take for They Live in Prince of Darkness, but I'm not gonna try and fight you on it either.
Maybe not They Live, but I thought that Prince of Darkness was a little bit harder to get into because it was a little bit more cerebral than the other movies that we watched this month. This one's pretty cerebral too.
I mean, we picked some of his most fun movies, right? Like, They Live is very fun. Big Trouble in Little China is very fun. Prince of Darkness not so much fun, but it's kind of interesting and it's fun. It's like fun to imagine what's going on in your imagination, or what has happened previous to what's happening in the movie and what could happen afterwards. And this one is just like visually compelling. The acting is superb. I don't think there's a single bad performance in the movie. Usually John Carpenter has like a couple of weird, clunky bits of dialogue. I think like the only one that really stands out to me is when that woman runs up with the axe and she goes, "Fuck you!" like runs away.
She says, "Fuck you," right?
Yeah.
What I will say to that is this movie's dialogue was written like it would be written in a book. That's how I. That's kind of how I felt. Right? I thought it was all kind of cheesy and written in a certain way. Not necessarily bad, but it felt
cheesy. Yeah.
It didn't feel like people talking. It felt like when you read a book and everybody's just slinging one-liners, and where he's like smoking the whole time. That's a very literature thing.
Hard. That was so hard.
Because you're quitting?
Yeah.
Oh, even I don't smoke cigarettes, and I was like, I want to smoke a cigarette right now.
You used to.
I did a while ago, yeah. But so I guess we'll lean into the plot now. I'll try and do a really quick synopsis of it. Basically, the movie opens with a man being admitted to the water treatment facility at the east end of Toronto, also known as the insane asylum of this movie. This movie was completely filmed in Toronto, by the way.
Nice, that's awesome.
And like the greater Toronto area. That church is, I believe, in Markham.
Oh, really? I can go see that church?
I kind of was like, when I realized it, I kind of looked at, because I know the water treatment plant. Everybody knows it. I've partied there a million times.
Nice.
And I was like, I wonder if all of it was filmed in Toronto. And it was. And even at the end of the movie, you see Hayden Christensen ride up on his bicycle. And you're like, oh, yeah, this part
that was Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, that was Darth Vader himself.
No, I got to rewatch it again now?
I mean, you could just look that scene up. You don't have to watch the whole movie. But anyway, I looked it up in that because I was like, this church is really beautiful. Is that also in Toronto? Because I would like to maybe go see it. And it's in Markham. I'm pretty sure.
You guys should put that on your to-do list.
Yeah. I mean, Jason, we rent a car one day and go look at it and just take pictures in front of it, losing our minds. Like, or we go, hey!
Were the scenes in the city? Were the scenes in the city the Toronto, like when they're up in that building? Or was that Toronto as well?
I don't know. The interior of the insane asylum is the interior of the water treatment center, because
that place looked crazy.
Yeah, no, it is. It looks amazingly beautiful, and it's because it was designed in like the 1930s when they were like, we have to make everything look beautiful, even our water treatment facilities. Anyway, I'm getting derailed from the from the plot.
Like immediately,
yeah. So this is what happened.
That's how we roll. That's how we.
Yeah, but this is also what happened. This is what happened last time I was hosting. Every time I started to go into the plot, you guys would just jump in with a thing that would make me go on a tangent that would take too long to explain. So let me just try and get through.
Jay just left. Now's your chance.
All right.
Me.
Me. He's back.
Listen, you're doing it again. Both. A man is being admitted to a mental institution, and he seems like he doesn't think that he belongs there. Very soon after that, a doctor appears who tells him that he's going to get him out of there. But when he goes into his cell, he has used a single black crayon at his request to draw crosses all over the place, including all over himself. The doctor then saying, that seems like a pretty good way to get yourself locked in here forever. And he's like, yeah, well, I don't want to leave anymore, Doc. This is it's a mad world out there, and I don't think that I want to go out anymore. He's like, you got to smoke. And then he sits down, starts smoking, and tells him the story of what happened. It turns out that Sam Neill is a insurance fraud investigator, but in this movie he's very much portrayed as a like hard-boiled detective from like a noir movie.
PI.
But yes, that same thing. He's like basically, shaking people down and getting information from their wives and their mistresses to like figure out insurance fraud, which is a very funny concept when you think about it, because it's almost like Roger Rabbit style logic, right? Where he's just like, you want to smoke? Oh, you're a little sweaty. Should I turn up the air conditioning in here, bub? Yeah. And according to his boss, he's the best in the biz. And like his boss is like, our other agents wouldn't be able to tell insurance fraud a mile away if it was stapled to their nose or whatever. And they're having this conversation in a diner, and his boss is like, "I've got another big one for you." And he's like, "I think I should maybe take some time off." And he's like, "No, this is big." And he's like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Sutter Cane." He's like, "Sutter who?" And he's like, "Sutter Cane. He's disappeared." And he doesn't seem to know who Sutter Cane is. And all the while, there's this man coming from across the street, and he comes out of this other business, and he has an axe, and it's like this beautiful shot. And he tries to kill him, and he, leans into Sam Neill's face, and he says, "Do you read Sutter Cane?" You're like, who the fuck is this eyeball man? His eyes look like frog eyes. And then, fast forward.
He's one of those.
Yeah, it turns out that man is Sutter Cane's agent, who's been driven insane by reading Sutter Cane's latest novel. But Sutter Cane has also disappeared, and now he's being hired by Sutter Cane's publicist to find him. And he's working for the insurance company. So he basically needs to either prove that Sutter Cane is dead so the insurance company can get their money from the insurance that they've paid into him, or find him and get the profits from his latest book, or get the manuscript for the latest book. And so Charlton Heston sends Sam Neill and the editor, whose name is Stiles, I can't remember her first name.
I believe Linda
Stiles, to find a place called Hobbs End, which he determines is maybe not a fictional town in a part of Maine, that he finds by like cutting the covers off of all of Sutter Cane's books and like piecing it together like a map, which I found fun. And I think Sam Neill says cute, and you're like, yeah, it is cute. I like that a lot. They go through some like brain fuckery as they're driving through the Midwest of the United States, and eventually they end up in Hobbs End, where they realize quite quickly that what's going on here is not normal, and it seems as though they have entered into the final novel of Sutter Cane's masterworks, the book entitled In the Mouth of Madness. And from that point on, Sam Neill is determined to prove that he's not in the novel, while the editor, Stiles, is determined to continuously find Sutter Cane. And she eventually is driven insane because she's shown the full manuscript of the book, and he eventually too succumbs, but he's let go from the town, and he makes his way back to civilization, where he discovers that he maybe has been gone longer than he thinks, and the works of Sutter Cane have basically rewritten his life as he remembers it. And then, he basically, it kind of comes back to the insane asylum, where he's talking to the doctor again, and the doctor's like, "I'm going to go now, and I'll be back soon because I want to help you." And Sam Neill's like, "I don't want to leave. I want to stay here because everybody's going to get a copy of this book, and those who don't read the book are going to watch the movie, and the people that watch the movie are going to be affected the same way that read the book, and everybody in the world is going to go insane." And that's basically what happens, and Sam Neill basically escapes, and he goes and watches the movie at the end. And I think the last moment of the movie is meant to be him like absolutely losing his mind to completion at the end.
Beautiful shot. Beautiful.
Rewatching the whole movie, we just watched it in little clips.
Yeah.
So that was a perfect synopsis. I like how we've gotten the synopsis down to just like skipping, because now we can talk about the stuff. Before we move on with the movie, I just discovered something pretty crazy about the person who wrote this movie. He is now the chairman of MGM.
He was also the CEO of New Line at the time.
At the time. So
he came out of nowhere.
Right around, so he wrote the short that would be turned into the movie Lawnmower Man. He wrote several episodes of the Freddy Krueger TV show. He wrote, yeah, we've talked about that on this podcast. He wrote Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. He came up with the story for Judge Dredd. And then listen to this list of executive producers. I'm just going to name the ones you've definitely heard of. It's not limited to this.
It's DeLuca, right? This is the guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw 3, Freddy's Dead, Loaded Weapon 1, The Mask, Don Juan DeMarco, The Long Kiss Goodnight, BAP, Boogie Nights, Wag the Dog, Lost in Space, American History X, Blade, Pleasantville, Spy Who Shagged Me, Detroit Rock City, fucking Magnolia, Little Nicky, 13 Days, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, Blow, Rush Hour 2, Knock Around Guys, Life is a House, I Am Sam, Run Ronnie Run, like literally John Q, Blade 2, fucking.
Wait, Blade 1 and Blade 2?
They're in order of the Ghost Rider, 21, fucking The Love Guru, Brothers, The Social Network, Drive Angry, Fright Night Remake, fucking Moneyball, Spirit of Vengeance, Ghost Rider, Captain Phillips, 50 Shades of Grey,
Oh, pervert.
50 Shades Darker.
No, even more perverted.
He wrote the 2017 Oscars.
What?
50 Shades
What
Freed.
does that mean?
Like, there's producers and writers on the Oscars. They write all the
I
bits.
believe he only has 2 screenwriting credits, though.
Yeah. Well, he has yeah.
And that's this movie and Freddy's Dead or whatever, like one of the bad Freddy Krueger sequels.
My point is the reason why this movie is so good is because this guy is a great person. He knows what works.
Yeah, he definitely has an eye and mind for like how things will play out, which is pretty great. Hollywood needs more people like them. I mean, maybe he's also a terrible person. I don't know. I don't know too much about his personal.
Well, he's got a career a lot that parallels Kevin Feige. Is what I kind of thought as soon as I read this list for executive producer.
Yeah, he's got a new one coming up called Chucky versus Jason versus Ash versus Freddy versus Michael Myers versus RoboCop.
Is that real?
No, I'm making it up.
I want it to be. I want that to be real.
Yeah, the ultimate showdown.
Directed by David Lynch.
Directed by John Woo.
Do you guys know if there's any anagram or whatever with the letters from Sutter Cane?
I was thinking about that, actually. Not an anagram, but a...
whatever it's called.
When you flip the letters around and it's something else.
That's an anagram, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Sorry,
Kaylin.
No, I didn't try.
I was like, clearly that's not an anagram.
You stupid idiot.
I was like, no, Kaylin's right, Jason.
I got one. I finally got one.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not really great at anagrams, so I'm not going to try and figure it out right now. But I mean, at the end of the day, Sutter Cane is a super cool sounding name. If there was an author named Sutter Cane, I'd be like, yeah, direct me to the Cane section, please. I think it's more supposed to be like it sounds like Stephen King. Like,
yeah, I was going to say this is very much like a story about a superhero stuff. A superhero Stephen King with an eldritch horror in his closet.
Yeah, it's like they, it's Lovecraftian in its designs. Like it's influenced by Lovecraft, but it's not a Lovecraft story directly, which is good because Lovecraft is a gross racist, and I always feel weird about liking stuff that he's done. But I do think that John Carpenter directed Christine, which was adapted from a Stephen King novel. So it's possible that there's 2 possibilities. I don't know either. I probably should have looked this up, but it could either be that Stephen King hated Christine, like with a passion, and like talk shit about it. So John Carpenter was like, I'm going to make this Sutter Cane character even better than Stephen King, to the point that I'm going to mention Stephen King in this movie, being like, Sutter Cane's even better than Stephen King.
That's actually a pretty good.
Or the other option is they are very good friends in real life, and he's going to mention Stephen King's name in the movie just to be like, hey guys, remember Stephen King? Go buy some of his books. He's basically like Sutter Cane. So it's either he loves him or hates him, I think. Or they just picked the most popular horror author at the time, which was probably him and probably still is.
I put Sutter Cane in an anagram finder thingy. And the first one is Utterances.
Whoa.
Kareen Tuts.
Okay, that one's not as good as Utterances.
Tut creates nut. Creates pun.
Creates nut? That's actually pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Crazy? You go crazy or go nuts?
I was thinking of something much more vile.
There are over 1,000.
Yeah, don't read all of them, but I like
Ascent
that.
True. Very good one.
Ascent True is good. Utterances is good
Utterance.
to me as well, because it like
Utterances, yeah.
it like evokes an idea of like somebody whispering in your ear, like something scary in your ear or something.
How about Saucer Tent?
No.
Oh, one day I woke up too early and I had a real bad case of saucer tent, if you know what I mean.
You were hungry and you were camping?
No, it's when you piss the
you
tent.
woke up.
Oh.
I thought it was morning wood.
No, I was just saying things to see what you guys would think I meant. I didn't have a thing in mind.
Yeah, I thought it was like your boner's like
flat.
Or
flat.
You were camping. You had sausages on the barbecue last night, and you got a little drunk, and you brought a couple of them to bed with you, and then you woke up and realized you didn't eat them.
No, I didn't mean that. But that's fine that you thought that.
No, I didn't mean that.
I have a question.
Okay.
So on the second viewing, like after having a bit of a better understanding, around the beginning when they first get to Hobbs End or whatever, and you see the kid on the bike first, right?
Yeah.
And then a little while later, you see basically the same kid but like older or whatever, right, riding on the bike.
And you see John Carpenter on the bike. That's basically what he looks like now.
He's looking great. On the second viewing, I imagine, because it's like I'm thinking of the book, right? Like it's being written or whatever, right? So I'm imagining in The Mouth of Madness, the book, what did I write? He was doomed to ride his bike on that road for eternity. Like that was just like how he got written. That's how it came to my head.
Yeah. No, I mean that seems like either that or it was like sort of I mean, it was definitely foreshadowing to Sam Neill at the end when he's trying to drive out and he keeps appearing back in the town again.
Yeah.
But when I watched it the first time, I was a little tired. And for some reason, I had an image in my mind the second time. I was like, he rides the bike out, right? Like he gets that bike somehow and rides it out. But that's not what happens. He just gets teleported out, and then Hayden Christensen shows up, and he's like, Obi-Wan's so mean to me.
I'm just looking at trivia here, and Hob is an old word for devil. I thought that this was a manifestation of hell in the real world. I thought it was a really weird... So... when do you guys think Sutter has the ability to write reality? At what point in this movie? Because it's a loop.
I think there's several ways that you can view it, and I don't think that any of them are necessarily correct. But I'll let you... Why don't we go through one by one instead of talking over each other?
Okay.
I'll be right back, though. I'll be right back.
So I didn't really develop a theory, but I did notice that right from the get-go of the movie, when he's put into the insane asylum, he is talking like they talk like normal people. Mm-hmm. As soon as the flashback begins, they start talking like jacked up characters in a book. Right. And then it loops, like kind of a loop thing happening in this movie. And then when he gets spit out of Hobbs End, that's the name of the town, right? Hobbs Point or it's Hobbs End?
Hobbs End.
When he gets spit out, clearly the pages are just turning because he's just being pushed ahead to like different moments.
Yeah.
And then at the end, right before he goes crazy and basically the prophecy of him going nuts into the insane asylum will start the movie. Things from reality have been overwritten, almost like a retcon. So it could be that it doesn't start being written until they're driving at night and they see the kid and then the old man and then they hit the old man.
Right.
Somehow that's the starting point of them being written. but it's either right when he starts to have the flashback, or it's right when they like drive into town, and she starts being like, the Styles keeps being like, there should be a painting right here behind me, and that old woman who we just talked to, she killed, according to the book, Horror and Hobbs End, she kills her husband by chopping him up into coleslaw.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then that's when we start seeing weird things like the painting.
The worst thing that woman could do to her husband is spit in his beer.
Yeah. But then we get that weird shot where she looks fine at that point, but then later when he talks to her again, she's all fucked, like her eyes are all red, and it zooms down and her husband's like handcuffed to her leg.
Yes.
And then it starts getting really weird and Lovecraftian, almost like almost turns into like a body horror movie. So that's why I wanted to ask if you guys had any like theories about it, because I do feel like Sutter takes over at some point in this movie, and I think that if with repeated viewings, you could narrow down that point. But from one, you guys watched it multiple times. From my one viewing, it's either it happens right from the get, or it's when they enter town. He sees them enter town. He creates the town for them to drive into. Because she even says, he's like, this is a publicity stunt. This town is just here for me to see and then be like, oh, this, I'm going to take this story back and it's going to help sell copies of the book. And she's like, you're half right. We were supposed to go on a wild goose chase to find him, but we weren't supposed to find anything.
Right.
Well,
period.
I think there are multiple ways to look at it. I tend to lean into, Sutter Cane has reach, and he doesn't necessarily have a point where he takes over. He reaches people through his previous works, and those are the people that he's able to influence. So he can influence the agent that is the only other person who's read the book at that point. That's why the agent tries to track down the detective and kill him, but he's also potentially written that those cops are meant to be there to stop that from happening. And the reason those cops are there because he's also written that, and it's, they kind of set it up at the beginning of the movie as it's almost like this disease spreading throughout the world. And there are even snippets of like the radio and stuff where you can hear them being like, it's a disease. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're talking about that specific thing, but they keep mentioning pestilence and spread and like pandemonium and stuff. And that's kind of how I feel about it, is like, once you read it, you're open to the influence of him, and he can write about you at that point. So if you've even seen, like a trailer for a movie of his, you could potentially be open to being written about. And like, it is established that he does know who Sutter Cane is. And then when he goes to the agency and he's like, isn't he the guy who writes that horror crap or whatever? And they're like, yeah, he is. You know who he is. Like, you definitely know who Sutter Cane is. Everybody knows who Sutter Cane is. And then he starts reading all the books. And then at that point, he starts to have these sort of like waking nightmares where he wakes up and then there's a dream still happening and then he wakes up again. And you're sort of not really meant to know when he's awake, when he's not awake. So that's like one of the theories that I have, is that anybody who touches the work or is influenced by the work in any way, you're then now open, because everybody keeps like saying, I see you, or he sees you. Remember that kid he's like, he sees you in the store.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm getting echo.
It might be me. 1 sec. My thing died and I had to. Is it better?
No. Oh wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is now.
It's better.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's my theory, is that as soon as you are touched by his work in some way, again, maybe even looking at the cover of the book, you're now open to him writing about you. And that's when, the little girl says, I see you. And then that's like right after he's in the church or whatever. And like the kid with the weird gooey nose and like the tape around his glasses in the bookstore, he says he sees. I guess the other thing you could consider is that John Trent is completely made up from the beginning. He's not even a real character at all. And
I got a bit of a theory. Corner I'm concocting up here, where this future, this moment here, where the world is destroyed, and you know, that's the future. That this is 1999. This is the future where they have to go back and warn the people in the 80s in Prince of Darkness. And this all starts because, you know, the green goo gets out into the world, the Eldritch Horror gets to the author. The author starts to write about this hell town, which ends up ending the world. Obviously, these are written by two different people, and it's just the only connection is that John Carpenter literally just directed. But I could probably put all of John Carpenter's work into the same universe.
So let me ask you this. Or let me add and ask.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, do you read Sutter Cane?
I see you.
When I first watched it, I approached it with the, I guess, mindset that we're in the real world, and then he gets into this world when he crosses that bridge. But then earlier at the beginning, Jason, like when you first asked, you know, or when you made mention about when does it actually start, and then I was kind of thinking about it as we've been like kind of talking this whole time, and it opens with him already in the insane asylum, and then comes back to it when he's at that point, you know, in the movie or whatever, right? And so one, I'm starting to lean more towards the whole thing is the written story, right? And then also what I wanted to ask you guys, and as I'm kind of trying to like process the thoughts in my mind, so what I was going to ask you guys is, what do you think the ending of the book was? And I have an idea of what I think it was, but like, what do you guys think the ending of the book was? Because we see what he does, right? But we do, like, do you know what I mean? So what do you guys think the ending of the book was?
I like the theory that the whole movie is the book, and the book made for theaters. Like
yeah.
The movie we watch.
Yeah.
So the book is just the movie.
It's like the MacGuffin or whatever.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more description. Yeah. Like there's, it's more vitriolic and a little bit more literary in its description, because even Sam Neill, when he starts reading it, he's like, you know, they're a lot better than you would think. I don't know if it's writing style or description and it's like he's literally saying how he thought they were going to be trash books, and he starts reading them and he's actually he's really engrossed by them.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you find a writer you like, then it's usually the case, right? Like there's something you can't really explain as to why you want to keep reading this one writer's work over and over again. I think that the end of the book probably, was the end of the movie. It's like he's living the book that was written by Sutter Cane, and the end of the book was him escaping from the insane asylum and finding a completely torn down world and just deciding, you know what, I don't care anymore. I'm gonna go and watch the movie and just let my brain melt in the theater. Because that's that shot of him laughing at himself,
so good,
going insane, and then like his laughter turns into this like guttural screaming crying. You're just like, holy hell.
Linda Stiles was the only person that actually read the book, as well as his agent, who is an axe murderer at the very beginning.
Both of them only read a part of the book, though.
But the thing, he takes up the mantle of Crazy Axeman.
Yeah, which was pretty cool.
An interesting little thing. Like, these books cause you to have like archetypes. I also quick
question. So when you mentioned he takes up the axe, right? When the kid like the kid gets axed right at the when he's like, "Hey, did you read the books?" Like, "Yeah, I loved it," and like he had the eyes or whatever, right? So, you guys think he knew he was going to get axed, the kid?
He probably didn't know that it was him, but he probably realized because he's read the book like multiple times that somebody gets axed, and then in that moment, like him saying, "Well, then this shouldn't come as a surprise."
Yeah.
Because there is a look of realization on that kid's face, being like, "Oh, I'm the one who gets axed at this point."
His eyes were already bleeding too, which seemed to be they didn't explore that. They didn't explore that much, but after Styles goes in and has the weird like pseudo sex scene with the monster on the back of his head. Yeah. I think there's an alien. I think this is aliens and not Eldritch horror.
Aliens or demons? Like
I think aliens. Because they show that H.R. Geiger
religion and aliens, and he did the same thing with Prince of Darkness, right?
The way I read that was that he, in his writing, he had this like seed in his brain or whatever that was like picking up the transmission from this goo door. You know, obviously it's meant to be very literal in the movie. You have a throbbing door of stuff on the other side that is like undescribable.
Inspiration.
And he's able to work as this sort of funnel to get some of it out in literary form. And that seed, like every time he releases a book and gains more viewership, is growing and growing to the point that it's like literally grows out of his head, right? Like it's like this monster inside of him is like growing outward.
I like that interpretation better. I was thinking that he was actually just one of those demon things disguising themselves, like growing an extension to look like a human.
I mean, to a point, that is sort of what I'm saying, but I'm saying that one of them was a part of him, and like the more he fed it, the more it grew, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There also could be a lot to be said for the book book starting when he reads he's reading Hobbes Horror at Hobbes End when he has like the visions and passes out and wakes up.
Yeah.
That could be also another starting point because he's now controlled. The Sutter has his antagonist or his protagonist now. So that's when, it's always going to be John Trent is the protagonist of the final book.
Yeah. As shown on the marquee of the movie theater, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah, when they showed that first, when they were showing all the like flashes and they showed that first one, I really wanted to pause it to see if it said John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, but obviously it plays into this ending bit where he goes and watches the movie version of the book. I just like that. The producer, when he gets back, he's like, "We can't release the book," and he's like, "You brought this book to me several months ago. It's about to come out, and the movie version is going to be in theaters tomorrow."
The time frame that
tomorrow
tripped me up.
No, he says, "You brought this to me months ago. You brought it to me last spring. The book has been in stores for 7 weeks, and the movie comes out next month." So he's like, "We're already like in full force of the production of this machine that has been created by Sutter Cane." Yeah, it is that part is a bit of like a mind trip up, and like I don't usually like that type of ending where it's like, "Whoa, nothing you can do." But
that goes back to my
flipping
pages. Like we're seeing pages being flipped.
But it also, it plays into what they're discussing in that scene, which is that he's like, "The woman that you say I sent you with, but I clearly remember sending you alone." That is impossible. And then he's like, "Yeah, well, she was written out." So it's like, it's almost like Sutter Cane is making amendments to his novel based on Sam Neill's
editing it from the inside.
Yeah. Which is interesting and fun. I like that, the classic, like you throw something out the window and then it appears in your house again later in like as a horror trope. That the novel keeps appearing to him and he keeps trying to get rid of it.
Speaking of tropes, when she writes Linda Stiles to kiss him, he's writing me, "He wants me to kiss you."
Mm-hmm.
That reminded me of, so like
it's better for the
about Big Trouble, like where they kind of called out the whole trope of the hero kissing the girl kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it happens twice where she just starts trying to kiss him even before that. And he's like, what are you doing? She's like, I don't know. I don't know. And then later, after she's already met him and talked to him, then she gets the like. I keep wanting to call it an eldritch horror because it really, once you see the like room he's in and it looks all gross and then the pulsating door, and especially when they show like the H.R. Geiger hallway that looks like a spaceship, like I really got Lovecraft vibes. But obviously, like
That
Oh,
sounds.
this is definitely influenced by Lovecraft for sure. Like
Lovecraft
everything.
sounds nice. What is Lovecraft?
H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft. is
Kaylin,
an author.
watch Color Out of Space first.
Okay.
It's on Netflix. It's got Nick Cage acting like a lunatic.
The color purple
And-
or whatever? Man, I watched
No.
that shit. I didn't understand what the fuck
No,
was
not
going
the color purple. The color purple is a. Wait, no.
on. No, the
No.
one with Nicolas Cage, Color of Space
Yeah.
or something. Isn't there purple in it?
Well, it's got a lot of really vivid colors. That's HP. That's an HP Lovecraft story.
Okay.
There are other ones you can watch that aren't as difficult to wrap your noodle around.
Nicolas
That one's not
Cage
even-
is a Nicolas Cage is a no, sorry. I'm trying to think of the word. I was gonna say acquired taste, but that's not true. He's hot and cold, maybe? I don't know. Like I don't want to say that either. It doesn't sound
Hit
fair.
or miss? Is that what you're looking for?
He has such a spending problem in his life that
Is
he
that what
has
it
to
is?
take every role
Yeah,
that
he
comes
was
across
like
his
addicted
table.
to buying dinosaur bones.
Why?
Yeah, because Leonardo DiCaprio had a dinosaur bone. He had a fossil collection, and he wanted a fossil collection.
Is that
Nick Cage
true?
is just an insane rich person from an insane rich family who has done a lot of good movies. He's a good actor. It's there, but he also does, because of his name, he just decides to do every movie. So then you get movies like Drive Angry. But Pig, I haven't seen Pig, but apparently it's good. You know,
I like The Color of Space or whatever it was called. I like that
Color
movie.
Out of Space. I loved it. It's a body horror.
Color
it's fucking
out
weird.
of space?
It's about an alien being that comes from space that manifests as colors, turns things into things from its homeworld, but it also can like make two people become one person.
I don't remember any of that.
Horrific.
I know I watched it and I was like, "What the hell?" And
That's an H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah. I feel like you did not watch it if you don't remember the most disgusting, horrifying parts of it.
It's fucked. It's
Yeah.
so messed up.
Sometimes I watch things really
I
hot.
I had to walk out of the room at one point and be like, I don't know if I can handle this right now. Like I was a little bit hungover, and I'm like, I might barf. This is so gross.
The part where like they pull the blanket off the mom and the son who have like forged into one.
Yeah.
That's the worst part of the movie.
Because you don't think they're going to show anything too horrifying, but they show everything horrifying to the point that you're like, don't show me anymore. My
That's the fucked up-
imagination is.
It's a fucked up thing about a
Exhausted.
lot of horror movies where you go 75% of the movie and you're like, this isn't so bad. And then the climax is just like
Yeah.
a nightmare. And that was one of those situations where I was like, this isn't even, why was I scared to turn this on? And
Because
then
you're a
I
little
got-
baby.
All right, Johnny.
I watched
Johnny
it last
boy,
year.
Johnny boy, we need to calm down here. We need to go back to the movie we're talking about.
The movie came out
On
in
that note, I got a
2020.
question.
What?
Do you think my favorite color is blue scene? Do you think that was practical effects where they actually wore blue, or do you think they just used a blue filter?
They probably just color corrected to make it blue.
You
It
think?
looked like they filmed it in the morning.
Yeah, it looked like Blade
morning
1.
light. Yeah, and then
Yeah, I see. This is one of those things that when I watched it on TV as a kid, that part stuck out of my brain so much
The blue?
that when I went to go rewatch it again, I thought that the whole movie was filmed like that. You know,
Yeah.
like some movies will be filmed entirely like that. Like I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure Blade 1 is very blue like that, and like Terminator 2 is very like blue like that at certain points.
especially when they show like the future, right?
Yeah, and then I was like, wait, I thought this movie was all blue. I specifically remember this movie being blue. But that's like a good example of Sutter Cane fucking with him in his dreams again, because he wakes him up puts him, or he's like next to him, and he's like, my favorite color is blue. Wakes him up, he's in blue world, and he wakes up again, and everyone's like, calm down, man.
And they do that twice, where he's a dream within a dream within a dream.
Yeah.
Where he wakes up and then wakes up again, because the first time it happens is after he walks by the poster, peels the poster a little bit, right, which is foreshadowing.
But not far enough, yeah.
Yeah, and then sees the cop beating up the guy. And the guy's like, do you want some of this? Then he reads that moment in the book, I think. But then that's
what
a
it
dream.
seemed like. It seemed like it was combining the book with what had happened to him that day, which was him getting attacked by the agent and seeing the cop.
Yeah. So then he wakes up, and then that cop with the weird, like, they live face is sitting beside him, and then he wakes up again.
Yeah. But within that dream, he sees a bunch of visual elements of stuff that will be played out throughout the movie, right? Which is like, that's again like supporting the fact that like he's already potentially relived or like lived through all of this, and this is like a rewrite. Like Sutter Cane might be like sitting there being like, oh, I need to rethink some of these ideas, and he goes back to an earlier chapter, and like, but he still has these like residual memories of being written through the story like several times.
So maybe this whole thing is just happening on the pages of not a completed book, but Sutter Cane writing the book. And that's what we're watching. And then that exact thing gets turned into the movie. Dude, this movie...
It's so meta!
Yeah. There's a lot going on, and I am excited to watch it again very soon.
I like
it is
looking
hard.
at you guys on an angle, and I feel like I need to change my setup, because I'm straight on.
Steve's got that Dutch angle. Something horrible's going to happen soon.
Yeah, I'm a Batman villain. I have one riddle for you. Do you read Sutter Cane? Yeah, I think that, you know, the main sort of like theme.
I'll get you, Batman!
Yeah, the main theme of the movie is, as Linda Stiles says in the movie, it would be very easy for what you consider to be insane to become sane if the insane people were the majority. If the world switched all of a sudden one day, you would be the one locked up in a padded cell, and that's exactly what happens to him, obviously. But I sort of like, it's kind of like a dire thought when you really kind of consider it. And like, you know, like obviously this movie is not really gentle when it comes to mental health issues in the real world. It's kind of like playing caricaturized versions of things, but it never really diagnoses anybody, which is nice. It just makes it seem like, no, there's a man who's writing everybody, and they're all now becoming insane. Like they're just losing their minds.
The news does sort of diagnose the people. It does kind of say there's an epidemic of paranoid schizophrenia happening. And that's when I started to think about...
No, they don't say paranoid schizophrenia. They I think they deliberately go out of their way to not specifically say things like that, like the point where she says some of his less stable readers. Like they say things specifically to not like really put a diagnosis on the table.
Yeah.
The only time that they say paranoid schizophrenia is when Sam Neill is like, oh, you want me to give you my it or my they or my them or my thing, because all paranoid schizophrenics have those things.
Right.
Well, here's mine. And like he describes the Sutter Cane incident. And like that, I think that's the only time that they actually say it. Which is like as delicate as you can be, I suppose, in a movie where you're talking about people being insane.
So just a side note here, this second half of this podcast is going to definitely have an echo pretty much all through.
Why, is your headphone dying?
No, since you took your headphones off, since you put on your other headphones, when you talk it's fine, but we're hearing our voices through your microphone.
Yeah, I'm hearing myself as well.
Okay, that's right. I can fix it, but then I'm gonna be muted on Instagram.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's fine for the rest of this. I don't know if this actual Zoom version, this is more of a test run to see what it sounds like after the fact. Anyway, this is stuff we can talk about after. I just wanted to give you a heads up. If you did you plug your headphones in, the ones that died?
Well, they're charging, yeah, and maybe they're charged enough if I can switch them over.
Switch them over because they're probably charged enough to get. We're already at an hour on the podcast, so probably it's the end.
It is difficult to speak when you hear your own voice.
I agree.
It's like that. It's like that. You ever play around with that app on, like you get it for your phone and app with headphones on? It delays your voice just long enough to the point where
you're like
you just can't. Yeah, you just can't talk at all.
Yes, I know what you mean.
All right, thank you, folks, for your patience.
Yeah, were they just not charged before we started, or?
No, they were, and I thought they were charged enough. What the fuck is going on? I might zone out of the Insta for a second.
That's cool.
Do you read Sutter Cane?
I'm losing me.
Is this any
weird.
better? Are you guys?
No, I can still hear myself.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. This is the sound of me talking.
What do I have to do to fix this? It was good at the very beginning, right?
It was great. Yeah, it was great. I think it's even good now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can I hear myself? I can still hear myself.
Oh, you know what I did? I know what it is. Okay, what about now?
Hello.
Now I can't. I'm good.
Yep, that's good.
Oh, it's so nice. Yes.
I wish there was
for so long.
I wish there was an alternate way. But if we want to I want to keep the live component of Hey, did you see this one for a little longer until we get a website set up, and I still will want to go live during our recordings, but I think as time goes on, our time live will be more of a segment in our show.
I'm fair. I can agree with that.
You know what I mean? Because it seems like a lot to have this dumb jury rig bullshit set up.
Half-assed, yeah.
So I just wanted to explore this for tonight. This way we get an episode up on Instagram. I don't know how good it's going to sound because like my headphones are over here. But we do now have a Zoom episode recorded so we can see what it sounds like at just our level. Steve was like, I'm leaving.
No, I'm here. You can hear me still, right?
So welcome back to Jason's Theory Corner.
One sec. What was the last thing we were talking about before I fucked shit up?
Oh, what I asked was,
Do you read Sutter Cane?
Okay, on that note, I got to give a shout out. So, title shown, it was like 2 minutes and like a second, 13 seconds, something like that. 2 minutes, 13 seconds. The title is shown.
The books are being printed.
Yeah. Title said by a character, an hour and 9 minutes, and I think
No, my friend.
What do you mean? Was it before that?
Oh yes, a news broadcast was saying people are losing their minds for Sutter Cane's novels are being ripped from store shelves and they can't keep up with the demand. All because people are wanting to read all of the books before the new release of Sutter's brand new novel, In the Mouth of Madness. And that
Did you just beat me on my own segment?
And it was 14 minutes and 25 seconds.
Kaylin, if it makes you feel better, I watched the whole movie and went, I know they said In the Mouth of Madness out loud 5 times, and I did not take note of it. I also wanted to point out that intro theme. Intro theme.
I meant, yeah, not everyone but you.
Right. The intro theme during the opening credits sounded like they really wanted to get Enter Sandman by Metallica, but couldn't, and had to get a hilariously similar sound-alike. And if that song was also, but alternatively, it could have just been our boy.
I have
John
the answer
Carpenter.
to this question if you want it.
Well, let me finish my thought to see how close I get. John Carpenter was like, nah, I got you. We don't need no Metallica. We just need me, Johnny C, to do on the ones and twos. And then he did the best John Carpenter's Enter Sandman we've ever heard.
What did you guys think about the little nod at the very beginning when he gets thrown in the insane asylum? And then, what's the song? The song by the Carpenters?
Yes, the Carpenter song. And then he says, "Oh no, not the Carpenters."
Well, I missed that.
I thought that was like a nice little hat tip.
Yes.
To himself.
To himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think this was around the point when people were starting to think that John Carpenter was losing his juice, kind of thing. He spunked it all out in The Prince of Darkness.
They were like, "What the fuck was that movie?"
I think it was Big Trouble. Big Trouble is what. Isn't that
well, all of his movies have flopped. All of his movies have flopped. He's never made like a big budget movie that has done well. But anyway, Jason, to answer your question, he did want Enter the Sandman. He tried to get Enter the Sandman. He could not get Enter the Sandman for a reasonable price within the budget that he had. Again, he filmed everything in Toronto, remember?
Can you negotiate prices?
You can try, but usually...
Kinda, not with music.
Is there a certain minimum, though? Is there a certain minimum where you can't go any lower?
Music?
Yeah, a lot of musicians do not own their own music, so it's not
right.
a
That's
case
what I was
of
going
like
to say.
pleading your case to the artist. It's like talking to businessmen who are like, "No, you pay us this, so you don't get our fucking."
It's kind of like what we talked about last week with actors taking a lower salary to be in a movie, but if they want to do it, they'll pay. So at this time, this is James, like Metallica were just touring the world, and they were all wasted. So there's no way that John Carpenter was like, "Hey, James Hetfield." They were going to the record company, and the record company was like, "No, we'll give you distribution rights for $30 million or some ridiculous amount of money for the time."
Right.
And to answer the second part of your question, yes, our boy Johnny C said, I can probably pull it off. And not only did he pull it,
man, I'm so psyched.
Not only did he pull it off, and it's a great like at the beginning. It also is the same song that plays right at the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he does what we like to call a bookend, where he opens the book to that song and then the book closes to that song.
I think that song would have stuck out like a sore thumb, because now when John Carpenter makes what's known as a pastiche or style parody of a
gentlemen, keep going. I'm still.
Enter Sandman came out in like '92. It would have been still on the radio. It would have been a huge song, meaning the song would have it's probably top 40 in '94 still.
It would have been like if somebody made a Star Wars ripoff like 2 years after Star Wars, and like the music was like bum, 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 bum.
Well, look at every sci-fi movie from the '80s that have those. I know,
but I'm trying to connect to my own life. I don't listen to music. I listen to soundtracks only. Fair
enough. But yes, Enter Sandman. I'm just gonna quickly look up. I think it came out in '92. It was very much a huge. Came out in '91, so it was very much maybe not top 40 still, but the thing about Metallica was they were the first like metal band to really cross over into pop. Besides like heavy metal, which was glam rock from the '80s, which isn't the same genre of music at all. It's
Tell him, Jason.
In the same pool, but it's not the same droplet. That's a phrase I just made up. My point being, the crazy thing is that it wouldn't have fit this movie, but this style parody fit this movie perfectly. Yeah. And for you to go, it's almost better for your brain to go, that sounds a lot like Understand.
Oh God! Now I'm not the one peeing.
I gotta plug my computer in. How long are we going on this podcast tonight?
I mean, we're nearly done. I didn't get to.
I better plug in though.
Just my points, but.
Well, just.
Yo, hit us with your points.
No, you're still in the background. Now you're like a tiny little Sam Neill puppet friend in his popcorn. I agree with what you're saying, Jason. I think that John Carpenter also has a very distinct style in his theme songs that he makes for each of the movies. Big Trouble in Little China is a perfect example. Obviously, Halloween lives on to this day. They Live was all composed by him as well. Most of the movies we've done this month, the music he has done himself. And there's something reassuring about putting in a John Carpenter movie and hearing a John Carpenter score to, like, just, you know, cradle you in, being like, here you go, it's me, John Carpenter. You know it's me, not because my name is on the screen yet, but because my music is playing and you like my music.
I like it.
And I do like his music a lot. And
you like synth and 808 drum machine.
Yes, I do. But yeah, I think that this movie has a lot of charm in its music, and I was paying attention to the soundtrack a little bit more closely on the second watch through. And there is some weird, sort of almost like Ghostbuster-y style. It's not as obvious as the Ghostbuster, like ding, 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 like when they're walking through the firehouse and stuff. But there's like this weird sort of like ding, 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 when he's going through when they're going through the production, like the publisher's office buildings and stuff. And I'm like, this is like very sort of like stylistic, and it's adding a certain level of character
to the office itself.
But it's also
thing, right?
but it's also
theme.
But it's also caricaturizing it. Like, it's making it seem more than it actually is. And that, like, I cannot imagine ever walking into a publisher's office building and having it be that filled with people. Do you see how many fucking people there were? Like, there was people everywhere.
That could be proof, though, that the whole thing was the book from the beginning.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. Little visual visual details that made me feel like I'm watching a book come to life. That is very meta in that.
For sure. I have a few written down too. Like, she runs over an old man on a bicycle. They both get out of the car. The guy gets back on the bike and rides away, and then Sam Neill says, "You keep driving." Like, what the fuck? She just ran someone over. Maybe you take over for a bit, man. But it's like, I forgive it because I'm like, Sutter Cane doesn't want that to happen. Sutter Cane said she keeps driving because she needs to see the ground turn into clouds or whatever.
Well, that's why I think that the covered bridge was a very was a metaphor for transitioning to the afterlife almost. It reminded me of Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of Beetlejuice after they showed the covered bridge, but the drive at night in the middle of nowhere on the map that they couldn't decipher felt very transitional too.
Yeah, well, okay, so I think that the idea there was also that Sutter Cane has already started writing this novel. He needs one of the characters to absolutely believe that they have transitioned into one of his stories, and one of them to not, in order for the story to take place. So rather than have Sam Neill be the one that goes through the visual transformation or the visual transition into Hobbs End, he takes the person who already believes in Sutter Cane beforehand, where she says, you know, like, I don't believe that Sutter Cane's reality is real. What scares me is that, what if his reality was real? That's like, she's already sort of terrified by that. And so having her be the one to see the transition is, all it does is accelerate and amplify her fear of Sutter Cane. So she goes into this.
She's already easily susceptible.
She's terrified. She's terrified immediately. And he's like, where is everyone? The town is picture perfect and there's no one around. And he's like, who the hell are going to buy these antiques? And she's like, okay. And he's just like, doesn't really believe anything that's happening. Where she is already completely sold on the fact that, like, I was in the middle of the night and now it's like daytime and I didn't see the bridge and now I'm here and now I'm seeing a bunch of bleeding faced children chasing a dog and I keep seeing it over and over again, and then I finally see the kids with even more blood on their face, and the dog that they've been chasing now has one leg.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
God, they ate that dog's leg for sure.
Did you guys? So the book does have like almost like a circular or like a comes back to where it started kind of thing, like path to it. Did you guys notice? So like at the beginning, remember how he was talking about like how humans fucked up like the air or the water or some shit, and we should just flush our heads down the toilet or some shit like that. And then
He says we fucked up the air, we fucked up the water, we fucked up each other. We might as well fuck our brains up as well by flushing it down the toilet. Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect. And then at the end, though, the news report, right? When I think it's when he's leaving the asylum, like it's like everyone's gone kind of thing. And there's a news report where it's like almost everyone's extinct. Like they don't say extinct or whatever, but like there's almost no one left or whatever. Like it's a human extinction, which is what he was talking about kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, where he says like something along the lines of like every species can smell its extinction on the horizon.
Yeah.
I had a thing I wanted to say about this actually. Thank you for bringing. There was a few. I got all my points in, and this is the last point I think that I had. And so I hate to bring up COVID, but that really struck a nerve with me because
we've all been locked inside for almost 2.5 years at this point.
And I have a lot of time to think about a lot of things. My point is that if I've heard that saying before, where throughout history animals were able to have species are able to smell their own extinction. It's literal. It's a metaphor. Blah blah blah. With humans, this COVID thing, it's looking real bad as time goes on. And the irony being, when you get COVID, your smell goes away.
Whoa, Jason!
Are you getting
Jason? Jason, hold on. Can I ask you a question?
Do you read Sutter Cane?
Do you read Sutter Cane? I've lost my.
That's actually shit. That's actually I like that.
That spooks me. That spooks me out.
I said that to Madison, and usually my wife, and usually she's like, "What are you? Shut up!" And that one, she was like, "Wow, that."
Oh, did she watch it with you? You guys watch it?
No, actually, I got a little funny story about that where she came into the room, and she doesn't like horror and she doesn't like spooky stuff.
Yeah.
And I told her just the plot of the movie, and she's like, "That sounds right up my alley." She left the room, and then like 2 seconds later, literal body horror started happening, and I was like, you know what? I don't think she would care for that. Because if you explain the plot to somebody, they're going to be like, wow, that's a really interesting story. It sounds a lot like Stranger Than Fiction. the 2000s Will Ferrell and Maggie Gyllenhaal movie. But
the lens that it's viewed through.
This is a horror story. It's an eldritch horror story.
Very unsettling, yeah.
Very unsettling. It's not like gory. It's got some body horror stuff. It's got like
the crab walk when she's like doing that crab walk with her head fucking like upside down or whatever.
Yeah, that reminded me of The Thing. That also reminded me of professional wrestler Bray Wyatt, who does a thing like that.
He turns his head backwards.
He doesn't turn his head upside down, but he does the spider walk, as it's called.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's an astute observation, Jason. I didn't think about that.
I went, oh fuck, out loud.
Oh god.
Also, this is a movie I had on in the background that I couldn't stop. Like, sometimes I'm like, I had it on the background, I missed stuff.
Yeah.
This is one of the ones we've done where I'm like, just the whole time, just like, just watched it. Like, just couldn't take my eyes off it. Usually, a lot of times I'll take a break. I don't like to, if I'm trying to like take notes about a movie, I don't like to like stop and eat, typically. This one I ate right through. I ate lunch while I watched it. You know what I mean? Like
I usually make the dinner and then I put the movie on and I eat the dinner while I watch the movie, and then I continue to watch the movie after. Yeah. No, I can't. I don't know. If I'm trying to think of a movie analytically, I cannot have it on in the background. It doesn't. I did that with the first Halloween movie, and it just didn't sit in my brain properly, so I had to watch it
I
again.
watched the first Halloween movie, and we all know how I feel about that movie.
I mean, we all
I
kind
have
of
to
landed on
do
the same page.
stages. I like to do one straight, like just straight watch, just watch it, right? Then if I have it on DVD, I'll do a commentary watch to get like, you know, the little extra tidbits and shit. And then sometimes I'll do a third watch. Like while I'm doing that one, I'll also look at shit or whatever, right? But then sometimes I'll do a third watch to try and look at extra shit.
Nice.
Why am I the mood killer tonight?
No, you're not the mood killer. I said nice. Like, what else? What do you want me to say to
sorry.
that?
Yeah, no, I was trying to think of if we had any more sort of like segmental things we could discuss, or if we could just go into any final thoughts and then.
How about
I think we're
pissed off at the old lady is like, come on, you old bitch.
You old bitch.
I did write down.
That reminded me of Seinfeld. I had a question that I wanted to ask you guys.
Yeah.
So this movie seems like it's much like every John Carpenter movie we covered this month, except for They Live, which
John
is the only one that
Carpenter
really.
Presents January.
I think it should have been called In the Month of Madness in retrospect, but
then it's only like on that one word. Although I like it.
Well, this is the main event. This is the last one. But anyway,
nice.
my point is so Treehouse of Horror has been a thing for 20, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
This movie, much like all of the other John Carpenter movies, feels like it should be in the zeitgeist of pop culture a lot harder than it is.
Right.
I've never heard of this movie. I have heard the name, but I didn't know that it was this kind. You know what I mean? I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
My buddy Ben, who I've talked about on this podcast, who also has a podcast similar to ours, he's definitely seen this movie. You know what I mean? Like, he's such a John Carpenter fan, he'd probably be like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I want to know if Treehouse of Horror has done this, because this would be a perfect Treehouse of Horror vignette, in my opinion.
I can see that, yeah.
But I've seen every one, and I don't think they've ever done it.
On that note, Jason, of what you just said, this is so the spirit of what you just said is why I kind of wanted to do this in the first place. Actually, there's a few things. So one, we get to talk about movies and shit. Like, I fucking like watching them and shit. And then sometimes you think about shit or whatever, and you want to like chit chat or whatever and joke and quotes and all that good stuff. But then also, sometimes someone will introduce you to a movie that either you never heard of, or maybe you heard of it, but you're just like, or whatever, right? And so we're able to do that with each other. But then on top of that, if there's anyone out there watching this, what's up? But maybe we'll introduce them to something that maybe they haven't seen before or whatever, right?
I think Benny and June was a big example of me hearing about a movie for years and years. And
I weirdly think about Benny and June every once
in
a
a
while now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, in my life, where I'm like, this
I'm
seems like a lot
guessing.
like a Benny and June situation. Like, people are like, what? I'm like, nothing.
If you guys are serious, I'm actually guessing right now. Like, okay.
I thought I was gonna hate it. I'm not gonna lie, but then
it was a good movie, man. It was a good
but
movie.
it's a good. It's a good movie.
I'm not gonna tell you it was bad. It was good.
It's very much a movie from its era, and it had its issues, but it was also just a cute story. If I would recommend that for a first date,
Yeah, that's a good date movie.
During COVID times.
On that note about era, though, personally, I feel if they took I'm still not exactly sure what they were. If they were aliens, monsters, demons, like, spiritual shit or whatever, or just, crazy. Let me think.
Well, the idea of the old ones is that they have always existed. They're older than God. They are just these things that exist in a dimension that you have to find a doorway to. Right. And if you can find that doorway and let them through, you basically end the world.
Yeah, and then you get there's a bunch of them. There's what's the one with the tentacles that most people know?
Japanese porn?
Spaghetti Monster the movie.
No, you know what I'm talking about. Did you
Little
guys
Shop
play?
of Horrors. Little Shop of Horrors.
No, that's a Venus flytrap. Did you guys play the first South Park game?
The one with the pea snowball.
Yeah.
Wait, Jason, use non-South Park references. Tell me more.
Tentacles. What do the
Masagroth.
tentacles do?
No, I'm gonna look it up.
While you're looking that up, what were we just talking about?
You were talking about you didn't know if they were aliens or if they were gods or angels or whatever.
What were
Oh
we
yeah,
talking
never
about
look
right
up
before
HP. Never look up H.P. Lovecraft's cat's name. Never do that.
Also, never mention it again on this podcast, please, Jason.
Sorry. I'm just saying never do that.
That's mentioning it, though. I wouldn't have done it if you didn't bring it up. I don't even think I did do it.
No, it was Jason that just did it just now.
Okay. There's Shoggoth. There's Azathoth, which are ones that I've heard of before. There's the Ghast. And then there's the one they're showing a picture goddamn
Wait, are you talking about Cthulhu?
Cthulhu. Yes, thank you.
Oh.
Cthulhu.
I thought you were talking about a movie, not a monster.
A monster. A tentacle monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a kraken.
He
but
also
the thing about
famously wrote in all of his books when he described these monsters, he like fucked his typewriter up to like make it look like crazy letters that you couldn't really pronounce, but it looked like the words you were trying to say. And then
I remember what I was going to say now.
All these insane accents and stuff on the words were meant to be like accents that you would have to have like multiple tongues and like goo in your mouth to be able to be like.
And to that note as well, like H.P. Lovecraft monsters are always like interdimensional in a weird way where you're just seeing one like sliver of their being because they exist across so many dimensions. So if an eldritch horror is like in your, that's kind of what I wanted to say about Color Out of Space.
Are you guys paying attention to Insta? Apparently, Mikey wants a shout out.
Who the fuck's Mike?
I don't fucking know. And there's, I think, a girl.
I see.
With a bunch of dollar signs for.
No, that's AG. That's I work with him at. And Mike, they're raiding us.
Nice.
We're getting a raid. We're getting a raid from a coworker and a former coworker. That's awesome.
Sorry for interrupting.
Sorry, guys. We're doing a thing tonight where I'm a legend, apparently. According to his name's Anand. He's a good dude.
I believe it.
I'm a legend. Thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate that. I wish I would have seen that. I have the chats actually. It's behind my laptop screen, so I have both cameras lined up. But that's awesome. They were probably here an hour ago.
Yeah.
Being honest.
Also, that's a better angle for you, Jason, that you have there on the Instagram.
Right now? Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you look like like, all right, tonight I have Kaylin and Steven. Go, tell me all about it.
On Zoom, right?
Well, both. I'm doing the same thing in both realities.
Oh,
so I'm an H.P. Lovecraft monster.
Similar to an old one, also known as a Sheragorath, a Cthulhu, and a Kakal.
I'm a Jace god.
Pronouncing that.
I'm a Jace
My
Zara.
apologies for any mispronunciation.
Tonight on the show we have Cthulhu. Right. So how do you feel about gender politics in America, Mr. Lou?
You can have whatever penis or vagina you want.
Yeah. I understand that most of the things on your faces are for sexual reproduction. We're going to have to ask you to...
All of them are used for sexual.
Can you put pants on them, or...
I can put pants on anything.
No, they talk to you telepathically. It's more like... Many have tried to put pants on them, but none have succeeded.
How do you have the video of someone else come up and then you talk, but it looks like them saying it like this?
No,
okay, what do you guys talk?
I'm not going to do that right now.
We should do final thoughts because it's late.
Yeah, we've almost talked about this movie for an hour and a half, which is fine, but we're not talking about it anymore. We're now riffing on H.P. Lovecraft, a man who died horribly and racistly many, many, many years ago. Listen, it was a different time, but it doesn't mean we have to like it.
we could learn from it, and we can
He also had a really fucked up life, which is I think why he created all this crazy
grow.
messed up shit. His mom used to dress him up like a little girl and tell everyone he was a little girl.
My mom
he
wanted a
started
daughter.
Did your mom dress you up as a little girl and tell everyone you were a little girl?
Not exactly.
Oh, God.
Not exactly. Did
And then
you?
Kalen reveals that he's got a tome of like books about crazy interdimensional monsters, and he's like, "I wrote this when I was 12." Oh God, he's got a hamster named Eskimo.
I had to.
That's okay. I mean, that's the nicest thing you could say.
No, I had two gerbils named David and Goliath won.
Oh gosh, really rewriting
Wait,
history.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
horrifying.
You made your hamsters fight to
Wait,
death?
Steve, back it up. Do you think that David and Goliath is history and actually happened?
No, I don't. Obviously, I don't.
That's like people who are like, man, back in Game of Thrones times. It's like, do you think Game of Thrones happened?
I think a lot of those stories are.
I mean,
stories
historically,
to learn
the
from.
book was written so that David won against Goliath. So in
It's a
history,
Bible story. It's just a story about
yes,
overcoming
but
the
it
odds.
was a written story. So it is a story that was written at one point in history.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's true.
So is Game of Thrones.
That's how.
And
That's how you-
someday,
Yeah. So if you were to tell me that the end of Game of Thrones ended with, I mean, it's still going. I
you
guess.
sitting in a theater laughing your ass off, and then realizing the
That
tragedy.
you should be at
of
home
being-
because Game of Thrones is on your TV.
but also, Kaylin, you're kind of onto something because that last season I was laughing and crying, and not because of the content on the screen, but
Was it
also because
you
of the
couldn't
content.
see it?
No, it's because it sucked and it
All
was
right, I'm
laughable.
gonna have to stranglehold you guys for a second.
You're the
and
host.
say
What? My apologies, sir.
final thoughts, friends, because we keep rambling and it's gonna go forever if we don't stop it soon.
Steve's episodes notoriously go long because he can't rein us in.
Dude, but should we be rating?
But yet,
each
as
other
I
in,
try,
or should we be
you sit here and
consciously-
tell me how bad I am at wrangling you, and you
And
keep fucking talking over me.
We should only be wrangled
All right.
if we're not
Well, what I
talking
can
about
do
the
is
movie.
Boot both of you and just
Oh,
end
fuck.
the episode myself.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're here on Instagram, and I've taken over the broadcast.
Yeah. Okay, so final thoughts on the movie. Let's start with Jason first, please.
So, I'm going to give this movie a fucking 4 out of 5 because I could not stop watching it. I pretty much said all my main points. I can't believe I hit the nail on the head so hard with Enter Sandman. I almost want to boot it up to a 4.5 just because of that. But I don't have a lot to say as a final thought other than this is a really good movie. Like top to bottom, it feels like in 1994 they're like, let's make a throwback. Let's make an 80s throwback weird horror movie. And then they had a screenplay, and then John Carpenter was like, I'm gonna John Carpenter all over this thing. And the end result was this magical, weird Sam Neill's coming right off of Jurassic Park, just going nuts and losing his mind. And most of the supporting cast, besides Charlton Heston, are just, nobodies. It's a very small cast, really. And it's just Sam Neill, character study of this just descent into madness, a literal man in the mouth of madness. And I think a 4.5 isn't even like, I don't even think I'm going too high with it. I don't think that's me in the, how sometimes I'll just rate a movie low because I just did not care for it, or I'll rate a movie high because I love it from childhood. I think a 4 out of 5 is a very, very fair rating to give a movie like this.
I think it's above fair. I think you're giving it a better rating than most people would give it, having only just seen it today.
I think that's true too, and I think a lot of people might not like this movie. But as somebody who's watched a fuck ton of movies in the last couple of years, it's rare especially when I'm doing it for something like this, it's rare that I'll watch a movie and not have in the back of my head, I just want this thing to be over so I can give it my final thought. A lot of movies they don't have a good time watching. I'm watching them because you should see this, or I can't believe you haven't seen this. It's always the movie, much like Benny and June. It's always the movie that like you've like, either heard the name of and didn't really know what it was. And you go in blind. I like going into like modern movies blind. I hate spoilers, and this was one of those situations where if you guys had spoiled anything and I had any anticipation, it might have messed up my rating system. If I don't even know. I didn't even look up the Rotten Tomatoes as I was looking at my laptop as we were doing the review of the movie tonight. So I don't even know what Rotten Tomatoes gave it because I don't care. I liked this movie a lot, and I think that if you're a fan of, Lovecraftian stories that aren't obviously Lovecraftian from the get-go, if you want a Lovecraftian story that isn't an H.P. Lovecraft story because he was a horrible racist, this is perfect. You'll see a lot of threat. But if you want like a, pretty on-brand John Carpenter movie, hit it up.
Excellent. Kaylin.
Yeah.
How did you feel about this movie?
Hey, did you see this one?
Where do I begin?
Well, maybe like the movie, you start at the end.
All right.
I didn't mean to throw you off. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. I'm gonna end it with that.
He's doing a thing.
I'm here I go. I'm getting all. I'm like water. So far, the majority of the movies we've done have been movies that I already knew. This movie, I didn't know anything about, and I'm pretty sure I said to you guys beforehand, like, don't tell me anything about it or whatever. Like, I'm going in fresh. And there's something about seeing something with no bias. There's an amazing energy or whatever to that, to just like see something completely fresh and just be open to everything. It does. So, Jason, I think you said something earlier about it. It kind of dates itself a little bit. And personally, part of me kind of feels that I kind of wish there weren't any monsters in it. I think if it was like just a straight like psychological thriller, going crazy kind of thing, one, I think I would have liked it a little bit better, and two, it wouldn't really date itself, right? Like it could still be right now kind of thing, right? Because other than the fact that they're not, on their cell phones and all this other shit, right? But like, that was one little thing. The monsters did look great. I'll give it that. It definitely blends a lot of genres, which after, this past month with you guys being.
Yeah.
Am I still here?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. My phone's dying. But being introduced to these movies, I definitely like watching them. Other than like Big Trouble, which is kind of, it's hard to place like when I would watch that throughout the year. But these movies definitely feel like something that I want to watch during October, like during the whole spooky season or whatever. Kind of like just want to be kind of like creeped out or whatever. This is my first time watching it, though. I went in fresh. I enjoyed it. I give it a fucking dope-ass, like, designer, what's it called? Straight jacket, crisscross, tied a bunch of times around the back. Enjoy yourself and fucking ask yourself questions about it, and then go watch it again, and then still not know if you can answer your questions yet. That's what I give it.
It got a 58 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh.
What?
Man, Kaylin, does that beat your score or not? I don't know.
IMDb has it at a 7.2 out of 10, and whatever Just Watch is, I think it's like Metacritic has it at 78. So that must be the viewer.
Fair. But also, you're asking everyone. If you ask the people that like it, they're going to love it. If you ask the people that don't like it, they're not going to think much of it. But I don't think that really should discredit what it is and what what it offers.
Yeah, you're allowed to like a movie even if other people don't like it. That's what's great about everything, because that's the same case for literally everything on planet Earth.
Take that.
My final thoughts on this movie are that it is super awesome. It's a beautiful melding of everything that we love about John Carpenter from the 80s, as well as some of the things that we might not care for of him from the 90s, but also a lot of other 90s goodness is smuggled in there, aka Sam Neill. I didn't mention this before, Jason, but Sam Neill and John Carpenter have worked together before. This is not a knee-jerk Sam Neill being cast because of Jurassic Park. Sam Neill was in another John Carpenter movie called Memoirs of an Invisible Man, starring Chevy Chase.
What? Chevy Chase?
Why didn't we do that? Even if it's terrible, it sounds amazing.
It's very bad, but also we could still do it at some point.
We have to do it at some point.
We could just do a Chevy Chase movie month if you guys want. But anyway, I'm doing my final thoughts.
My bad.
That's where they met, so that's why he was chosen for this role. But I think he was also chosen for this role because Sam Neill has been in so many movies that involve demonology, monstrousness, horrifying imagery. Sam Neill has always been around in the horror genre. He's, even Jurassic Park is technically a horror movie when you.
It's a horror movie of
he just has a very good demeanor for horror because he's believable, he's beautiful, and he's
got a
also,
good everyman. Sorry, my bad. You go.
He's interesting. He's an interesting person. I think that from the opening of this movie to the closing of this movie, almost like Big Trouble in Little China, there's something in every single scene to keep you being like, holy, what? Hold on. Wait, give me a second to think about that. Now I gotta look at this thing. And it keeps moving the entire time. I think the best scene in the movie is by far the opening moments where the two investment fraud detectives are talking in the restaurant, and a man is slowly making his way across an intersection on I believe that's King Street in downtown Toronto. And
you're on King Street.
He just
I think one of the viewers mentioned what it is.
Oh, maybe.
1 second. You keep doing your thing. Sorry.
He and then he smashes through the window and says the line. And right at that moment, you're just kind of like, okay, I was already intrigued because he's being locked up for being insane and is not wanting to be insane. And the doctor doesn't believe he's insane, but is like, well, why do you want to stay? And he's like, the world's going to lose its mind, man. I want to stay inside of here. All of these things are intriguing. And I think the first maybe third to half of the movie is extremely John Carpenter-y in terms of its compellingness, where it's building horror and mystery and strangeness, and then the second half is the other part of John Carpenter that we like from Big Trouble and They Live, where it's just kind of overflowing with ridiculousness. Monsters everywhere. People are literally running around with axes, and children are biting him. He's like, I got this from a 5-year-old. Johnny boy, sister, with me on my face. Vigo the Carpathian blows his brains out.
After she did the white thing.
This way.
Yeah.
It's all wild. And even past that point, when it starts to cool down a little bit, it starts to jitter up into wildness again. And then Sam Neill kills a teenager and then gets thrown into jail. It's great. It's so good. And like I said about The Prince of Darkness, this is the other John Carpenter that I never would want to see a sequel made to this, but I would like to see not necessarily a sequel, but those people on the radio at the end being if you're not infected like we are, find us find us now. And then the radio gets cut
Yeah.
off and he goes into the theater. Imagine there was like a scenario where there are these people that are dealing with like eldritch monsters and shit. And then like they figure out they need to go to a certain area to find some like Sutter Cane novel that's like hovering in a field, and they're about to get it, and then like Sam Neill is like, "Doo!" like comes up and he, instead of having like crayon all over him, he just like he looks like he does from what's that movie, Event Horizon, where he's all like cut up and bleeding, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
Or he's got one of those. He's got one of those big puffy eyes, like all the other
Yeah.
people that are infected.
Anyway,
They start to escape, and then they realize he just wrote that they thought they were about to escape, and then they don't escape.
yeah. Or like they find a Sutter Cane transcript that was never published, and like they can like write in it and it like changes shit.
What about a silly story from when he was a child? Some sort of happy something or another. They go through all the bullshit, and then they're like, oh, his words come to life. Let's go find one of his stories when he was a child. Like, let's say he wrote something happy, right? When he was a baby or whatever, right? And read that shit and then live that shit.
Well, I was gonna.
Blew my mind.
No, that's where I was gonna go with it too, Kaylin. Like they find a half-written story that's written, and then they continue it and just make, because clearly all of his books have a bad end, like not happy endings. So they just turn one of his books that's unwritten or finished into a happy ending to rewrite history. I think that making a sequel to this movie is more important than any of the other movies, because you end it right when the apocalypse is happening. That's my favorite shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, it's okay. I kind of started us on that roller coaster there by being like, "What if?" I shouldn't have done that, because we should have another separate podcast called "What If," where we just talk about what if this happened in the sequel.
If we get 50,
I think
one thing.
If we get 50 subscribers, if we get 50 new subscribers, we'll consider it.
Okay.
Ooh, give him a challenge.
One of my favorite lines in the movie is when Sam Neill is like, "You leave me down here and you expect us to go on a wild goose chase, and then I go back to town and I tell everybody how crazy it was, and then well, fuck that." Fuck that. It's great. The door is excellent. The throbbing door.
Yeah.
Amazing. Gooey, drippy door. Kaylin, what?
I have a question.
Okay.
Would you guys possibly be maybe interested, maybe once in a while, maybe if some tickles their fancy, we do a scene recreation?
Yeah, of course. That's a question for after the show.
Okay.
Kaylin, if you have a question that could be answered after the show, especially when we're 7 minutes away from 2 hours, let's keep it to the chat, and let's wrap this up, because I need to go to the bathroom and not to pee.
Okay. So the last thing that I was going to say is that this movie, in a soft way, kind of eases us into our next month's theme. I don't necessarily know if we want to reveal that theme.
Not yet.
I think we should.
Several points in this movie that...
Let's do hints.
Okay, well, Sam Neill tries to escape the town.
Yeah.
That's my hint.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, I'm going to say that this movie is extremely interesting. One thing that I could not figure out is Sutter Cane touching his ring constantly. I thought maybe it meant that he had married himself to the, similar to the seed thing I was talking about earlier. He had like, the ring is like representative of like, he is attached.
Authors love to put literary like ticks on characters, like Trent's constant smoking. That might have just been.
He's doing it constantly.
He's married to his craft, though. He's married to his craft.
He does it. When like the doors
he loves
are, like,
his craft
for the Johnny boy moment. Like when it turns to Sutter Cane, finally, he's sitting there rubbing his ring, and then later when he's inside the confessional box, he's like rubbing his ring the entire time he's talking to Sam Neill.
Did you get a weird vibe when Sam Neill sat on his lap?
Not really. I was
Okay.
like, oh god, he's uncomfortably close.
What did you
I
think?
wrote
It's like
down-
a weird
He's
vibe?
fucking him in the ass with
I wrote-
powers.
I wrote down when he was in the confessional booth that I wrote, this thing's clearly going to be lit on fire. And it surprised me that they didn't do I'm trapped in a confessional that's lit on fire with all this Satan imagery. But then it made sense that it was just literally for them to have a cool confessional scene.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so what I give this movie is 88 tentacles up out of a
man, that sounds so
possible
good.
100 tentacles.
Wow, that's a higher rating than even I give.
Yeah, I love this movie. I think this movie is. If we were doing The Thing, I would probably give it upwards of 90.
I would probably
95.
give the thing a 4.3 or a 4.5 based on my memory of it. But after
Out of
watch-
4.5, I thought you were measuring out of 5.
4.5 out of 5.
Oh, I thought you said 4.3.
I
out
think
of
this movie
4.5.
is a movie that this is one of those movies I would show to people, and I would be embarrassed to show them because I know they probably wouldn't like it as much as I did. And then after the movie was over, I would probably try and convince them it was better than they thought it was.
Oh, the rest of the night. This sounds like a scenario where you tell me to watch this movie, we hang out, and I'm like, meh, and the rest of the night.
Did you notice this part?
Yeah, the rest of the night you're
Yeah,
like,
do
what
you
did
see
you?
him
And I'm like,
rubbing
yeah.
his ring, bro? He's rubbing his ring. That means he's married to the Eldritch Darkness.
But I think that's gonna take us to the end. So I think I have one question for you guys, which is,
Do you read Sutter Cane?
no, I'm just kidding. But for Jason and Kaylin, I am Steven.
And for Kaylin and Steven, I'm Jason.
And for Jason and Steven, I'm Kellen.
And let's all
And-
ask each other at the same time.
Hey,
Hey,
do you read
do
Sutter
you
Cane?
read Sutter Cane? That's good enough. That'll do. Hey, did you see this one?
No, I was doing a callback because I said I was going to end how I started.
Bye.